In the grim calculus of World War II naval engagements, a foundational, unwritten rule governed submarine operations. A submarine, by its very design, was an ambush predator. Its strength lay in stealth, surprise, and evasion. Direct confrontation with its most lethal adversary, the destroyer, was considered suicidal. These surface escorts were fast, agile, and bristling with anti-submarine weaponry. They were purpose-built to hunt and destroy submerged threats. Equipped with sophisticated hydrophones capable of detecting faint propeller noises across miles of ocean, and armed with devastating arrays of depth charges set to detonate at varying depths, they transformed vast ocean expanses into killing zones for any submarine that dared to linger. For a submarine, especially underwater, speed was drastically limited, often no more than a few knots. Its primary weapon, the torpedo, was a finite resource, requiring precise aiming and close proximity. Once detected, its thin pressure hull, a mere few inches of steel, offered scant protection against the concussive force of depth charges. To willingly engage a destroyer head-on was to invite certain destruction. This tactical gamble was universally forbidden by every major navy, including the U.S. Navy's Submarine Force Doctrine of 1943. Yet in the crucible of war, where doctrine often bends under the weight of necessity, one man and his vessel dared to challenge this established wisdom. This was Lieutenant Commander Samuel Dealey, captain of the USS Harder, hull number SS-257. Dealey, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy class of 1930, possessed a singular, aggressive mindset. His tactical philosophy deviated sharply from the conservative norm. His approach to submarine warfare was not merely bold, but revolutionary. He saw destroyers not as insurmountable predators, but as legitimate targets, opportunities for decisive action. This unconventional thinking was perhaps forged in part under the influence of Commander Richard H. "Mush" Morton, the legendary skipper of the USS Wahoo. Morton, known for his relentless pursuit of the enemy, instilled a "damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead" mentality. That spirit resonated deeply with Dealey. By early 1944, a growing cadre of submarine commanders began to share Dealey's sentiment. Many had faced the frustrating realities of unreliable torpedoes and elusive convoys. They argued that strict adherence to defensive doctrine was costing valuable opportunities. A more proactive, daring stance was essential to break Japanese naval supremacy and turn the tide in the Pacific. The time for caution, they felt, was over. On April 13, 1944, a terrifying new precedent was set near the strategic island of Guam. Here, Captain Samuel Dealey, aboard the USS Harder, encountered the Imperial Japanese destroyer Akazuchi. Instead of evading, instead of retreating, Dealey chose the unthinkable. He initiated a direct, down-the-throat attack, a maneuver previously considered suicidal for any submarine. This was a frontal assault directly into the destroyer's path, firing torpedoes as the enemy vessel bore down. The engagement was swift and brutal. Torpedoes struck home with lethal effect. The Akazuchi, a formidable escort, was swiftly sent to the bottom. A shocking loss. News of this encounter reverberated through the highest echelons of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Their doctrine, their training, screamed that this was impossible. Submarines were prey, not predators, against destroyers. The sinking of the Akazuchi was not merely the loss of a ship, it was a profound blow to Japanese naval confidence, a stark reevaluation of their anti-submarine warfare capabilities. It signaled a new, aggressive era in submarine warfare, for which the Imperial Navy was entirely unprepared. This single engagement near Guam was the first chilling indicator of the escalating price Japan would pay.
The sudden loss of the Akazuchi, particularly to a submarine, sent ripples of consternation through the Imperial Japanese Navy. Their established doctrine that destroyers held supremacy in anti-submarine warfare had been dramatically challenged. This engagement on April 13, 1944, near Guam, sparked immediate, widespread concern within Naval High Command. Admiral Suemu Toyota, the newly appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet, viewed this aggressive action with genuine apprehension and mounting anger. He grasped that this was not an isolated success, but evidence of a new, bold approach by American submariners. The sheer boldness of engaging a destroyer head-on fundamentally altered his tactical calculus. Toyota recognized that the United States Navy was rewriting the rules of engagement. This perceived shift in enemy capability introduced a critical vulnerability into Japan's most vital strategic plans. Pacific Fleet at Tawi Tawi in the Sulu archipelago relied heavily on secure waters. The prospect of American submarines employing these daring tactics around such a crucial staging area presented a serious impediment to their preparations. The IJN's timeline for decisive action became instantly complicated by the Harder's unprecedented successes. Admiral Charles A. Lockwood, commander of the U.S. Pacific Submarine Fleet, had witnessed Dealey's bold tactics with a blend of professional admiration and strategic foresight. The sinking of the destroyer Akazuchi near Guam had unequivocally demonstrated Harder's unique capability to challenge and defeat these formidable escorts. Now, with the Imperial Japanese Navy's first mobile fleet, under Admiral Ozawa, consolidating at Tawi Tawi, Lockwood recognized an unprecedented opportunity. The Tawi Tawi archipelago, nestled strategically in the Sulu Sea, was not merely an anchorage. It was a critical staging area, a naval fortress where Japan's most powerful battleships, cruisers, and aircraft carriers refueled, rearmed, and conducted intensive training. This hornet's nest, as it was known, was the linchpin for their planned defense of the Marianas and any offensive against the impending U.S. invasion of Saipan. Disrupting operations here was paramount. Lockwood's decision to dispatch the USS Harder into this heavily guarded bastion was a high-stakes gamble. He ordered Dealey not simply to patrol, but to actively engage and disrupt the Japanese fleet's movements, essentially to go into the hornet's nest and stir it up. This mission directly pitted a single submarine against the concentrated might of an entire enemy fleet, transforming Harder into a spearhead aimed at the very heart of Japan's naval readiness.
Arriving at the Tawi Tawi anchorage, a vital staging point for the Imperial Japanese Navy's first mobile fleet, the USS Harder immediately became a ghost in the very heart of their defenses. Dealey's orders were clear: disrupt the enemy's readiness and, if possible, draw out their formidable destroyers. The morning of June 6, 1944, provided the first opportunity. A patrol of 3 Japanese destroyers was detected visually, operating within the inner perimeter. This was precisely the kind of engagement the Wolfpack doctrine had deemed suicidal. But Dealey had a different philosophy. Positioning the Harder with surgical precision, Dealey initiated another daring down-the-throat attack. This maneuver involved firing torpedoes directly at an oncoming enemy ship. As the lead destroyer, Minazuki, charged Harder's last known position, her bow cut through the water straight into the path of 3 Mark 14 torpedoes. One torpedo found its mark, a catastrophic impact near Minazuki's forward magazine. The destroyer, a vessel of 1,700 tons, erupted in a violent explosion before quickly succumbing to the sea. The sinking was swift and brutal. The other 2 Japanese destroyers, momentarily disoriented by the shock, launched a disorganized depth charge attack against an empty patch of ocean. This single, bold act signaled the true arrival of the destroyer killer. The loss of Minazuki directly within their secure anchorage sent a clear, chilling message through the ranks of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Their confidence, already tested, was now profoundly shaken. The rules of engagement had been rewritten, and the price for naval supremacy was escalating. The night of June 7, 1944, brought a different kind of peril. After the intense engagements of the previous day, the USS Harder critically needed to recharge her batteries. This operation demanded surfacing. A submarine on the surface, especially at night, presented a vulnerable silhouette, an inviting target for patrolling destroyers. Yet Samuel Dealey, ever the bold commander, made the calculated decision. He would accept the inherent risks to regain full operational capacity. As Harder broke the surface under the cloak of darkness, the unexpected occurred. A Japanese destroyer, the Hayanami, materialized. This was not a passive encounter. It was a direct confrontation, forcing Dealey to react with decisive speed. Instead of diving and evading, Dealey chose to engage on the surface. This was a truly unprecedented move for a submarine against a destroyer designed for anti-submarine warfare. The ensuing battle was a brutal exchange at close quarters. Harder launched her torpedoes with deadly precision into the Hayanami. The Japanese crew, caught by surprise, found themselves facing a phantom adversary. Explosions ripped through the destroyer as Harder's fish found their mark. The Hayanami, a vessel of 2,077 tons, quickly succumbed to the devastating attack. She broke apart and vanished beneath the waves, taking a significant number of her crew with her.
This surface kill under such precarious conditions further solidified Dealey's reputation as a commander willing to shatter established naval doctrine to achieve victory. The price paid by the Imperial Japanese Navy for underestimating this submarine was once again a destroyer.
The Imperial Japanese Navy, reeling from the losses of Minazuki and Hayanami, intensified its hunt across the volatile waters of the Sibutu Strait. This narrow, reef-strewn channel, situated between the Sulu archipelago and Borneo, became the stage for a deadly cat-and-mouse game. Captain Dealey, however, knew these waters intimately. He understood the currents, the depths, and the choke points that offered both concealment and opportunity. The remaining Japanese destroyers, still part of the original hunter-killer unit, including the Tanakaze, were now operating with extreme caution. Their sonar operators, under immense pressure, searched desperately for the elusive American submarine. On June 8, 1944, Harder's hydrophones picked up the telltale thrum of destroyer propellers. It was the Tanakaze, cruising eastward through the strait. Dealey, demonstrating his characteristic aggressive posture, initiated a submerged approach, using the confined topography to mask his movements. He aimed to intercept, executing a classic down-the-throat attack, a maneuver still deemed suicidal by conventional wisdom. As Tanakaze closed the distance, her bow pointing directly at Harder's position, Dealey waited for the perfect firing solution. At the critical moment, Harder launched her torpedoes, a perfectly timed salvo that found its mark directly amidships. The resulting explosions ripped through the Japanese destroyer, sealing her fate. Tanakaze sank rapidly, becoming the third Japanese destroyer from that initial hunter-killer group to be sent to the bottom by the USS Harder. This victory, achieved within the tight confines of Sibutu Strait, further showcased Dealey's tactical brilliance and the formidable capability of his crew. Yet the continuous engagements, the proximity to enemy naval bases, and the sheer number of Japanese patrol assets pushed Harder's operational envelope to its absolute maximum. Each successful attack amplified the risk of an eventual catastrophic discovery. The psychological strain on both the crew and the submarine systems was relentless. The Imperial Japanese Navy had now lost 3 destroyers in just over 2 days to a single submarine, an absolute staggering toll. Their attempts to neutralize this lone American threat had only resulted in further significant losses of crucial escort vessels. The price of their engagement with the destroyer killer was escalating dramatically. The morning of June 9, 1944 brought no respite. Still operating deep within hostile waters, surrounded by the remnants of a frustrated hunter-killer group, USS Harder remained a primary target. Yet Captain Dealey, with characteristic boldness, chose to engage once more, despite the daylight hours and the heightened enemy vigilance. His hydrophones detected another Japanese destroyer, identified as the Tanakaze, approaching in the vicinity of Tawi Tawi. This was the 4th destroyer encountered and the 3rd from the original hunter-killer group that had been tasked specifically with Harder's destruction. Dealey maneuvered his submarine with surgical precision, closing the range in broad daylight. A well-aimed torpedo spread found its mark. The Tanakaze suffered catastrophic damage, sinking rapidly beneath the waves. This astonishing feat, achieved under constant pressure and within a fully active combat zone, underscored the unparalleled skill of Harder's crew and Dealey's tactical genius. For the Imperial Japanese Navy, the cumulative losses were beyond comprehension. 4 destroyers in just 4 days, often under conditions previously considered suicidal for a submarine. Admiral Soemu Toyoda's command was undoubtedly grappling with the sheer boldness and effectiveness of this unseen adversary. The repeated public losses of these vital escort vessels began to erode morale and forced a drastic reevaluation of their anti-submarine warfare doctrine. However, such relentless aggression also carried immense risk. Each successful attack heightened Harder's visibility and intensified the Japanese resolve to eliminate this phantom menace. The continuous engagement, the stress of evasive maneuvers, and the expenditure of precious torpedoes placed incredible strain on the submarine systems and her exhausted crew.
Among them was Chief Torpedoman's mate John R. Hogue, whose steady hands had loaded every torpedo fired. Electrician's mate Frank L. Frankie Gross Jr., barely 22 years old, kept the batteries charged through impossible conditions. These men and 77 others operated at the edge of human endurance. While successful, these operations pushed the very limits of both mechanical reliability and human courage. The relentless campaign waged by Dealey and the Harder at Tawi Tawi inflicted damage far beyond the immediate sinking of destroyers. These engagements, unprecedented in their aggression, fundamentally disrupted the strategic calculations of the Imperial Japanese Navy's first mobile fleet, commanded by Vice Admiral Samuel Ozawa. His formidable fleet, the primary component of Japan's counteroffensive against the impending American invasion of the Marianas, was anchored there for crucial training and preparation. The constant presence of a destroyer-killer submarine, a phantom menace striking with chilling precision, forced Ozawa's fleet into a state of perpetual alert. Instead of honing their combat skills and coordinating complex aerial and naval maneuvers, his valuable surface combatants were diverted to frantic anti-submarine patrols. The loss of 4 destroyers in just 4 days represented a significant depletion of vital escort assets, exacerbating the logistical and tactical challenges facing the Japanese command. This sustained pressure, the psychological strain, and the undeniable threat to his capital ships compelled Admiral Ozawa to make a drastic decision. His fleet, initially scheduled to depart Tawi Tawi on June 13, 1944, was instead ordered to weigh anchor 6 days prematurely on June 7. This hurried departure, without the full complement of planned escorts, and critically without adequate pilot training and strategic reconnaissance, threw Ozawa's meticulously planned operation into disarray. The direct consequence of this forced, disorganized movement became brutally apparent during the ensuing Battle of the Philippine Sea. Deprived of critical preparation time, operating with less experienced pilots due to curtailed training, and hampered by inadequate early warning systems, Ozawa's carrier aircraft faced a well-prepared and technologically superior American force. The engagement swiftly devolved into what the American aviators would famously term the Great Mariana Turkey Shoot. Japan lost 3 aircraft carriers and over 600 aircraft, a crippling blow to its naval air power. While Harder's actions alone did not orchestrate this ultimate defeat, the strategic ripple effect of its bold destroyer kills was undeniable. It peeled away vital layers of defense, forced premature decision-making, and contributed significantly to the climate of disorganization that permeated the Japanese fleet on the eve of battle. The price paid by Japan in terms of lost ships, diminished air power, and fractured strategic planning was immense, directly impacting their ability to defend the Marianas and beyond.
By June 10, 1944, the USS Harder's legendary patrol was reaching its operational zenith. Despite the staggering successes, Captain Dealey and his crew faced dwindling torpedo reserves and the cumulative toll of relentless combat. Yet the boldness remained. On that decisive day, Harder spotted another Japanese destroyer. This vessel, the 5th to be engaged during this extraordinary patrol, presented a final, tantalizing target. With a precise, calculated approach, Harder fired its last effective torpedoes, striking the enemy ship. While not a definitive sinking, the damage inflicted was substantial, forcing the destroyer to withdraw severely compromised. The Imperial Japanese Navy's response was immediate and ferocious. The remaining destroyers, now acutely aware of Harder's lethal presence, converged with vengeful determination. A brutal counterattack ensued as the Japanese unleashed a torrent of 42 depth charges against the American submarine. Each concussive blast reverberated through Harder's hull, a prolonged, terrifying ordeal, testing the limits of its structural integrity and the crew's unwavering resolve. Damage was incurred, but the submarine miraculously held. With torpedo tubes empty and the immediate threat finally evaded, Dealey ordered the withdrawal. The USS Harder, battered but unbowed, began its long, triumphant voyage back to Fremantle, Australia. This return from a patrol that had redefined submarine warfare was a testament to the crew's unparalleled endurance and the submarine's remarkable resilience, having inflicted such profound disruption upon Japanese naval operations. The incredible feats of Samuel Dealey and the USS Harder, once deemed suicidal, quickly reshaped American submarine doctrine. His aggressive, down-the-throat attacks against heavily armed destroyers, which conventional wisdom had long forbidden, became the new standard for engagement. This paradigm shift empowered U.S. submarine commanders to actively hunt and neutralize Japanese anti-submarine vessels. The tactical innovation paid dividends, with a marked increase in Japanese destroyer sinkings throughout the Pacific theater. This attrition weakened the Imperial Navy's escort capabilities, making their convoys even more vulnerable and critically impacting their logistical supply lines. Dealey's exceptional valor was posthumously recognized with the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration. His citation acknowledged his extraordinary heroism and distinguished gallantry in commanding the Harder through 5 successive war patrols and directly contributing to the strategic disruption of Japanese naval forces at a critical juncture of the war. However, the destroyer-killer doctrine, while revolutionary, came at an immense cost. The inherent risks were staggering and demanded an almost unparalleled level of skill and courage from both the commander and the entire crew. Japanese anti-submarine warfare,
though initially caught off guard, continued to evolve, posing a constant, deadly threat that ultimately claimed many of these brave submariners, including Dealey and his crew. Yet the strategic changes initiated by the Harder's actions irrevocably altered the course of the Pacific War, tilting the balance decisively in favor of the Allies. By August of 1944, the USS Harder, the legendary destroyer killer, embarked upon her sixth and final patrol. Operating as part of a coordinated wolfpack alongside the USS Hake, a tactical evolution born from the escalating demands of the Pacific War, they continued their relentless mission. Their target area, the hazardous waters off Luzon in the Philippines, was a vital artery for Japanese logistical support. Initially, Dealey's crew continued their unparalleled streak. In early August, Harder engaged a Japanese convoy, sinking a destroyer and damaging another, further cementing their formidable reputation. This bold engagement, deep within heavily patrolled enemy territory, was a stark reminder of their unique prowess and their willingness to challenge conventional submarine doctrine at every turn.
However, the very boldness that had defined the Harder's legend had also drawn the full, unblinking attention of Imperial Japanese naval intelligence. The relentless attrition of destroyers, ships previously considered almost inviolable against submarines, was no longer a series of isolated incidents. Tokyo now understood with chilling clarity the grave threat posed by these American ghosts operating so aggressively. Their operational patterns, their preferred hunting grounds, even the distinct signature of Dealey's down-the-throat attacks were being meticulously analyzed by Japanese counter-submarine warfare specialists. This heightened awareness, this focused intelligence effort, meant that Harder, despite her continued triumphs, was now a known and intensely hunted entity. The price of their unparalleled boldness, the inevitable cost of consistently disrupting the enemy's naval operations, was steadily escalating. The Japanese, now fully aware of the destroyer killer's methods, were actively adapting their tactics. On August 24, 1944, operating off Desal Bay, Luzon, Harder encountered a small Japanese convoy escorted by several patrol craft. In the subsequent engagement, designed to intercept and eliminate such threats, Harder was detected by the Japanese coastal defense vessel CD-22. This ship, a formidable adversary in shallow waters, immediately initiated a counterattack. Dealey, ever the aggressor, attempted to evade. The submarine executed an emergency dive, a maneuver honed by countless close calls, but on this occasion, the timing was tragically off. The Japanese escorts, coordinating their attack with precision, dropped a devastating pattern of depth charges. Reports indicate the underwater explosions were catastrophic, rupturing the Harder's pressure hull and sealing its fate. The USS Harder and all 79 souls aboard vanished beneath the waves. It was a profound loss, a stark reminder of the immense human cost inherent in such daring naval operations. The destroyer killer, whose very name instilled terror in the Imperial Japanese Navy, had paid the ultimate price. Yet their legacy, forged in unparalleled boldness and strategic disruption, continued to reverberate through the Pacific theater. Dealey's innovative tactics, though ultimately leading to his own demise, had fundamentally reshaped submarine warfare doctrine, ensuring that his sacrifice was not in vain. The legacy of Captain Samuel Dealey and the USS Harder endures as a testament to courageous innovation and profound sacrifice. Their destroyer-killer patrols shattered established naval doctrine, rewriting the rules of engagement for submarines. Dealey's relentless aggression and tactical brilliance forced the Imperial Japanese Navy to confront a new, terrifying threat, diverting critical resources and influencing pivotal campaigns like the Battle of the Philippine Sea. The strategic reverberations were immense, costing Japan not just ships, but crucial time and strategic flexibility. Yet this unparalleled bravery came at an unbearable cost. The loss of the USS Harder with all 79 souls aboard in August 1944 near Desal Bay stands as a stark reminder of the ultimate price paid for such daring. Their final patrol,
a desperate engagement against overwhelming odds, underscores the inherent brutality of their mission. Chief Torpedoman's Mate John Hogue never returned home to his family in Arkansas. Electrician's mate Frank Gross Jr., just 22 years old, was lost along with his shipmates. Samuel Dealey, the man who rewrote the rules of naval warfare, sleeps eternal with his crew in the depths off the Philippine coast. While Dealey's tactics proved revolutionary and earned him the Medal of Honor posthumously, such high-risk operations were, by their very nature, unsustainable for prolonged periods. The Japanese response, an intensified anti-submarine effort, albeit often too late, reflected the immense pressure placed upon them. Their naval commanders were left reeling from the psychological and material damage inflicted by a single, determined submarine operating with unprecedented boldness. A heavy price, indeed.
These are the stories that must never be forgotten. They speak of human courage under imaginable pressure, of strategic genius forged in the crucible of war. To remember Captain Samuel Dealey and the crew of the USS Harder is to honor not just their sacrifice, but the enduring spirit of those who dared to challenge the impossible, shaping the course of history, one daring patrol at a time.